And I'm Andrew Menzel, and welcome to the Cricket Unfiltered Podcast. Joining me is Jaleesa Apps from Channel 9. Jaleesa, how are you?
Yes, I'm good, but I have to correct you because I'm soon to be Channel 10.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep, they found my Twitter account and they fired me. No, I'm just
Oh, they heard this podcast?
No, but I do like that, we had that viewer feedback before that someone had spotted me on 9 after this podcast and thought that was how I got there, but no.
This podcast has been fantastic for your career.
Doors.
9, now 10.
No, I've been there for 5 years now, so it's exciting to take on something new, and I'm really excited to join 10. But I won't be there for another 5 weeks.
Congratulations.
Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Paul Dennett, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, good to be here. Hi, everyone.
So in today's show, we are going to wrap up the T20 series in New Zealand. We've got all the cricket headlines, a lot to get through, and then we're going to wrap it all up with Can't Let It Go. But let's head straight across the ditch, and Australia came back from 2-0 down in the series, but in the decider, it was a pretty forgettable performance. Australia limped to 8 for 142. The Kiwis cruised home on the back of a Guptill 71 of 46 deliveries. And overall, I think a disappointing final match. But Paul, how did you think the tour went for the Aussies?
Yeah, I think it was a good tour for watching, and the Australians, it was good that they came back in matches 3 and 4. It did disintegrate a bit at the end. I was actually at an animal park of all places, a wildlife park, and I'm not, and I respect.
Those are my favourite things.
Yeah, they're not mine.
Jaleesa, you must have been very disappointed with the fact that the T20 started at 10 in the morning on a Sunday.
Well, I'm not as disappointed as I am to hear that Paul went to an animal park and I didn't go, but whatever.
So I was planning on actually just standing there and like a weirdo just watching the game on my phone and ignoring the animals. But because it was such a sad affair, I actually found myself turning it off, and I actually fed some animals. So
what did you feed?
It was like a pony or something.
I don't think you understand how much I love animals. I'm mental for animals.
We're starting to understand.
I go to the zoo by myself a ridiculous amounts of times a year.
Jeez, can you take my... can you go instead of me next time my wife and daughter go?
I'm always offering people in my life to take their kids to the zoo, and everyone's like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have to stop being the weirdo alone at the zoo.
Looking forward to your daughter going through therapy later in life and being like, so my dad was watching his phone again.
So yeah, that was that shows that that Game 5 was a bit of a dull end to it all, but on the whole, it was a pretty good series.
So after the series, Jaleesa, what did you think of the series?
Much as what Paul said, but I was actually really happy to see Aaron Finch start to fire a little bit. Obviously, I'm sure not as relieved as George Bailey was, but yeah, I thought it was like. I didn't think it was our worst performance. I think it left a lot to be desired, though, and I'd be very worried about our World Cup campaign. One thing that really annoyed me is that they didn't really take the opportunity to utilise when you didn't have the best players there. They didn't take the opportunity to utilise a few of the other players that were in the squad just to see what they could do. I thought it was probably a good opportunity to give everyone a go.
Tanvir Sanger.
Yeah, but they didn't do that. So
yeah, Ashton Turner would have been good to get a go. I kind of agree with you, Jaleesa. Looking ahead to the World Cup, normally ahead of a 50 over, a 20 over World Cup, we tend to think as Australians, geez, Australia's going to be right there in the finish. They may not win because that's the nature of the tournament. This time round, certainly we could win, but I think England and India
I agree.
are a long way in front of us at the moment, and at this juncture, I'm not all that positive about it.
And watching, it'll be interesting to watch India and England in this series to see how they go, because that'll be a big warning for us, I think.
Yeah, and I just hope that we pick the right side. Finch, congratulations to him. You know, Bailey, we criticised him. I was especially critical of him.
It was still a stupid comment.
Well, he'd be entitled to say, listen, mate, read the paper. Runs are on the board.
Yeah.
Get back in your box, champ. And I'm sure he does listen.
I'm sure he does.
So, George, it's a results-driven business, so well done. But, yeah, it was still a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I agree with both of you that I don't think Australia have a chance at winning this T20 World Cup this year.
I'm saying that
I don't think they have a chance. I am saying that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that.
I would be flabbergasted if we were to win the T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
I'd be mildly surprised.
I think we have a chance when we host it next year, but just can't see it happening. I have sort of gone through and picked my best 11 for the T20 World Cup if it were played next week in India.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this might change because I do think for the first time in a long time, IPL performances should be not just looked at, but heavily looked at for picking this World Cup side, the fact that there'll be the same conditions. But I'm going to read out my side and you two interject when you disagree or, don't like what I've done. So I've got Warner and Finch opening in the World Cup.
Well, why don't you read it out? It's hard.
We could just read it out.
Read it out and then we'll go back and tell you all the mistakes you've made.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a few. It's going to take a while. No, I'm just kidding.
So Warner and Finch opening, Matthew Wade at number 3 and wicketkeeper, Glenn Maxwell at 4, Moses Enriquez at 5. Those two could flip-flop in the order, but I want both of them there. Marcus Stoinis at 6, Ashton Agar at 7, Mitchell Starc at 8, Adam Zampa at 9, Cummins at 10, Joe Richardson at 11. Cummins could come up the order. He's a bit of a big hitter. So that's my 11. Steve Smith, I've got 12th man.
That's loose.
Very, very hard to leave him out, but I just feel that his returns in the T20 game in the last 12 months to 18 months just have not been good enough. And then other bowlers, I've got sort of Hazelwood, Kane Richardson and Riley Meredith around the squad, but that's my 11. Go.
I would go Warner, Finch, then I'd slot Smith in there.
Yep.
Above Wade. Get rid of Wade and go Philippi.
Ooh.
That's
so you put 2 in for 1. Now, maths go...
No, because I'm dropping Stoinis out.
Oh, you're dropping Stoinis. The big rig's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Because why I've picked Stoinis is he was so effective for the Delhi Capitals batting down the order. And we even saw in this series... He did play pretty well down the order, so that's why I've got him in there.
I can't agree with dropping Smith at all. For me, he's still right up there as our amongst our best 1 or 2 or 3 T20 players. He can do it all. He can do it when it's a tough wicket. He can score more quickly than people give him credit for. I agree that he's maybe it'd be good to see what he does in this IPL. But for me, at this stage, he's absolutely in the 11. What I'm delighted about, not delighted, that sounds a bit sadistic, but I'm pleased that you haven't picked
reverse lights.
No, it wasn't reverse lights. I'm euphoric and so happy that you haven't picked Mitchell Marsh because it's time that we move past Mitchell Marsh. I just imagine it, 4 for 70 after 10 overs in a crucial game. Spinners are on. We need someone who's going to come out and can start scoring quickly straight away. Marsh is going to come out and he's going to nick one to first slip and he's going to be over. He's just good player. If it was in Australia, maybe I'd think differently. He had a good big bash. I just think in Indian conditions, it's time that he gets left behind. So I'm pleased that you've done that.
I think you're falling victim to a mental state that I have invented.
Okay, go on. The Manners mental state?
No, that's a whole other state. The mental state in cricket of the Smith effect. So to me, the Smith effect is when Smith's not at the Smith level, people think that he should be dropped, but he's still better than everyone else, right? So I think sometimes when there's a tendency when he's not at his best to go, oh, well, he should be left out, but actually not at his best is still pretty much better than everyone
He had
else.
a stinky IPL last year.
It's just like the Bradman bodyline theory. That Bradman averaged 56 in bodyline, and everyone's like, oh, he was the worst of his career. Still better than Tendulkar of his whole career.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. The Smith effect.
The Smith effect.
Menzies, you've been afflicted by the Smith effect and you need to be cured. I would also like to say, and I know I bang on about it, but it's for a reason, I'd love to see Dan Christian get a good opportunity, get a good amount of starting time at my Royal Challengers Bangalore and to force his way into the side. I think
I would love that too, by the way.
I would too.
And I think the selectors would be open to it. I think that if he really did bat the house down, I think he'd get picked, and I think that'd be absolutely fantastic.
I don't know. I disagree there. I think I agree with you that I really would like him looked at, but I think if he was going to be looked at, they would have done it in this 2020.
I think that it's not a good sign that he didn't get picked in the, was it 37 cricketers?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, Trevor Holmes actually rang me and said... Instead of
You're on standby.
I'm on standby. I don't think they rang Christian.
What day did he ring you? Because he rang me and I want to know which one of us was first.
But I just think it's a unique opportunity that he's going to be playing in the same conditions that the tournament will be held in. And if he can lift RCB to a great performance, then I think they'll have no choice but to pick him. But it'll require something quite special from him.
Yeah.
And with that whole limitation of only 4 overseas players in the starting 11, he may well find he's on the bench half the time. So that'll be that'd be disappointing.
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing that's interesting to me is this whole Riley Meredith craze. His overall figures. What's his
Otherwise known as the Warney effect.
yeah, true. His overall economy rate in all the T20s he's played is 8.02, which is not terrible, but it's not quite elite. And a bit like my scenario before of Mitch Marsh coming out when we're needing some runs. If Rohit Sharma's tearing us to bits or Owen Morgan's tearing us to bits and the ball is thrown to Riley Meredith, I'm going to be crouching behind the couch because I can see him coming in first ball. Oh, that's a good ball, but it's been top edged for 6 over third man. Yeah. Oh dear, and then it just goes from there. That's my fear factor. Can you disabuse me of that fear, Manners?
Well, look, I think we've seen a small sample size at international level, but what he got, Kane Williamson out twice already, so he's shown he can get big wickets. He's fast, so in T20 cricket in India, air speed is important.
Is it though?
Well, I think IPL clubs that value that know more about that than us.
Yeah, but they're the ones that picked Kyle Jamieson and paid $17 trillion for him. I don't know. I think it's airspeed at its best is absolutely magnificent, but then there's another time the airspeed you get belted for 50.
Well, look, I'd be backing Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, and even Kane Richardson and Jai Richardson before Riley Meredith.
I think the ones that, for me, it's Cummins and Hazelwood that you're not going to get a terrible performance out of them very often. I'm very...
But Hazelwood's a length bowler. He can go the journey in T20 cricket.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's still in my starting side. Well, I'll say my starting 11. But I've got a couple on the bench that I want to get to as well. But Finch...
How long have we got? How long have we got?
Well, the thing is, they're going to be able to take a massive squad. They said they're going to take probably 30 over there, and you can choose how many players and how many backroom staff you have. So Australia are talking about actually having 22, sort of a like-for-like replacement all the way down. But Finch, Warner, Maxwell, Smith, Christian, Enriquez, Carey, Agar, Cummins, Zampa, and Hazelwood. But on the bench, here's my 12 bench players. Stark, Cameron Green, I think he has to be considered, given he's a power-hitting phenomenon. He scored 1,000 runs in his last couple of games.
Ridiculous.
I know, his batting has been ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous that you would pick him with literally hardly any T20 experience.
I agree. Paul, I'm so shocked about that.
This is why I win at punting, because I don't value...
Here we go.
I don't value irrelevant things like that. If he's good enough, he's good enough to be there. And the way that he has batted in the last few weeks and the way that he plonked the ball into the stands when he accelerated in the test match, plus his bowling could be quite handy.
You've never seen him on Indian wickets.
It's such a different game. There's so much, the whole dynamic changes once you go into 2020. I'm shocked about that, Paul.
Well, you'll be shocked with the next one as well. I'd pick Oliver Davies.
That's ridiculous. Someone's got to put some headlines in the podcast. I'm glad it's not me saying the outrageous stuff for once.
We went to the World Cup in '96, didn't pick Ponting.
From Manly straight to the World Cup.
That's the thing that sometimes when you're young enough, you're good enough, get them in there. We haven't actually got that many really young players. He just looks special to me. And he may not prove to be an absolute champion, but when you've got a young racehorse that has a couple of big wins and is brilliant, that's what you judge them by. At their best, geez, this could be anything. That's what he's like. He could be absolutely anything. I'm not saying that he's in my 11, but I'm saying that they should give him some opportunities in the matches leading up to the World Cup. Maybe take him to West Indies or take him to Bangladesh. Every time I've seen him play...
I can't.
Go on.
Every time I've seen him play, he has been absolutely scintillating. And he hit those 5 sixes in a row on the Big Bash. He batted the other day with Steve Smith at North Sydney Oval, and for a while they looked vastly better than Smith. I think that he could potentially be a special talent, and I think that
I agree with that bit.
So why wouldn't you want to pick him?
Because I think he's just not ready.
He's just not ready, yeah.
And we haven't seen him on Indian wickets. He's no international experience. I'd love to see him next summer playing the Thunder, all their games, bash the door down, and he plays in the T20 World Cup next year that we host. But interestingly, he's got West Indian heritage. Can I just get that in? I think he's one of his lineage is Trinidadian. That's why he looks like West Indian.
But I mean, if he does bash the door down next year and get into the World Cup, then you might actually regret not having him in this one. There's no loss in considering. You could take him to the West Indies or Bangladesh, and it's no great loss if he doesn't perform that well. Have him in the squad. You're going to have a massive squad. I just think the potential upside is huge.
Okay, keep going. Is there any more extremely left field picks you've got?
Well, the rest of the Turner, Wade, Jai Richardson, Kane Richardson, Berendorf, Stoinis, Philippi, and then Lyon and Labuschagne.
Okay.
I think that Labuschagne, I wouldn't be necessarily having in my top 11, but if it was going to be a tough pitch where you needed some class with his spin bowling as well, and Lyon's T20 record, it's weird that they don't consider him a little bit more. If the pitches are really going to spin, it would be I wouldn't mind having him over there.
He's done well for the Sixers. I agree with that one. Jaleesa,
Yeah.
Any big takeaways from our teams?
No, I just like I said, I'd have Philippi in there.
You're a big fan.
I'm a big fan of him. I agree with Dan Christian. If you're basing it just purely on recent form, if you're picking the team tomorrow, I think he would have to be in there. And I was so shocked that he wasn't picked to go to New Zealand. Yeah, I'm just really shook by Paul, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's a shocking pick.
Green
and Davies.
I can't get on board with either of them, especially not Davies. I think that's just, he's so young. It's just so young.
I could see actually Green going in a squad of 22 for the experience and maybe just to give him some time over in India. But apart from that, Paul, thank you for the headlines for this podcast. Green and Davies to the World Cup.
I could imagine when we used to do this podcast, if we had done it in the 1990s, you'd be, thank you, Paul, Adam Gilchrist and Ricky Ponting. You moron.
Admittedly, I was ropeable when Healy was dropped. I was very, very upset.
Oh, my God. I was so happy when Healy got dropped.
When he got dropped from the one-day side, I spent days tossing and turning. Then I saw Gilly make 100 at the SCG and I went, who's that Healy bloke again?
Exactly. And Healy was great, but Gilchrist is the best cricketer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He is the best. And I knew it right from the start. And I'm not saying Oliver Davies is going to be that good, but he might
Bless
be.
you.
He might be pretty bloody good. So if he is, I'm going to be getting this back from the archive in a few years' time and playing it to the hills. And if he's not, I will make sure that it never sees the light of day.
I also said that Shaun Marsh would make, I think, 5,000 or 7,000 test runs. Only about 5,000 short of
I
that.
might need to get to know you better. I mean, in terms of everyone needs sort of an incorrect bellwether for gambling. That if someone has the bad take consistently, that's actually worthwhile.
My other one was I didn't think Hayden would ever make it at Test cricket. Only scored 30 Test hundreds. All right, we're going to take our first break and then we'll be back with the cricket headlines.